Right, hello there everybody, Adam Clery here from FourFourTwo. Yesterday we saw Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2, and today we're going to try something a little bit different involving the number 2, which sounds wrong. Now I actually thought the Desmond was a good result for both teams for very, very different reasons, and I spent all last night agonising over which way to approach this video, and in the end, I couldn't. So what we're going to do is 2 videos, one that really focuses on Arsenal, how they got on top, but how they let it slip, but how that's actually not a terrible thing in context, and another one on Liverpool, why they were dominated the first half and how they changed it and came back and got the draw. They'll both be sort of the same at the start, but then they'll drill down really specifically into one team or the other. If you are neutral in this regard and you want to see both sides, then you've got 2 videos you can watch. This may be a complete disaster. I have honestly never tried it before. So yes, that is why Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2 was a really good result for Arsenal. Right, okay, to start, some generalised comments on the pattern of play in this game. This bit, the next few minutes, this will be the same in both videos. Now, despite the differences in the starting 11s, both in terms of personnel and formation, we've got Arsenal in like a 4-4-2 here, because it kind of just felt more like that than a 4-3-3, which we'll get into in some detail. Both managers came with a very similar game plan. What you have here are 2 teams who are very good at pressing, but also 2 teams who are very, very good at playing through a press. So the approach for both Arteta and Slot was to stop any sort of central progression. You don't want the other team to be able to play through the middle of you, and you also don't want to give them chances to win it back in those same areas. But then, by the same token, because you're both very good teams, you don't want to just sit back and sit in a low block for the whole game and try and hit the opposition on the counter. So you are neither pressing too high, but nor are you dropping too deep. And we kept getting both teams in this very compact shape in the middle of the pitch. And thus, from there, it probably goes without saying, if you are trying to stop the opposition playing through the centre, but you yourself do not want to get caught in the centre, you then must target the wide spaces. The very first real kick of the game, Liverpool get into their 3-2 build-up shape that we have seen time and time again this season, but Arsenal are already locked onto them in the middle. They are not pressing the defenders or the goalkeeper too much. They don't want to overcommit, but they will not allow that ball to come into Gravenberch. Still don't know. They're sitting off the fullbacks, but they are prepared to jump onto them if the ball goes out there. So what do Liverpool do? They hit long and they hit into the channels. The hope is, because Thomas Partey is not a conventional fullback and will want to meander into the middle, is to get Diaz into the little bit of space that might leave behind him. And you can see here it is a little bit of space. And it's not the prettiest approach from Liverpool, especially when they've got players who can play far more shorter, intricate, more eye-catching stuff, but it is definitely worth trying. And from here, they get a free kick. Really dangerous one right at the start of the game. And then, just mere minutes later, Arsenal have their first real spell of possession. They are setting up at the back, and you can see, likewise, Liverpool want to make sure they outnumber them in the middle. You can count them for yourself here. They are blocking off the central progression. So Arsenal then do likewise. In this example, Martinelli has pinned Alexander-Arnold all the way back. He can't really push up, so that leaves Timber a bit of space to move into, and that's where Raya lands the ball. And just to show you how much of a theme this was for both teams across the game, right, this might be a little bit messy, right? This is the passing map of David Raya in that match. Now, he's a cheeky little chappy, you know what he's like. He's got his little lefts and rights to his centre-backs to see if they can pull and prod and take Liverpool out of their shape. But by and large, he is not only going long, but he is going into the channels when he does it. Now, you may well be looking at this going, there's an awful lot of reds in there, Adam. He was giving the ball away quite a lot, but I think this is genuinely quite a commendable pass map for a goalkeeper in a game such as this, because not only is there still a lot of accuracy, there's plenty green in amongst all of this for what is a very low percentage thing to do, but also look how far forward he comes to do it. Like, he is playing, he is trying to push them up the pitch. This isn't just a, oh, give it to me and I'll pump it. He is getting into decent positions and then trying to find a teammate. But then we look at the same pass map for Kelleher and you can see largely a similar pattern. A lot more red because he's not as good at kicking as David Raya is, in my opinion, but you can see almost exclusively he is going out to the flanks and going long. And in fact, get them both up here, of these, like, what, 30 or 40, I can't actually see them right now, 30 or 40 kicks going into the channels. Between the two of them, there are what? 3 that go centrally, and none of those work. But the thing is, this isn't really that surprising, because in these big Premier League games now, where you get 2 really big teams, and one of them doesn't get a man sent off, they have become so tactical and so sort of like marginal. And that's because teams like Arsenal and Liverpool have such like meticulous, well-prepared, intelligent managers now that they put so much work into negating the opposition's threat, fairly confident that even if that happens to them, they've got really good quality players that will find solutions on the pitch. And it was kind of a mad game because it felt very sort of like high energy and it went both ways. But if you look at like the XG of the whole game, I know some people don't care about XG, just go with me on this. It was like 0.8 and 0.9. Like in a game with 4 goals that felt like it had quite a lot of chances, that's like very little. And that is, like, as mad as it might sound, exactly how both of these managers will have wanted this game to go. Like you could see from both the set pieces, they were well worked on. They'd obviously practiced that in training. But the other 2 goals, individual moments of brilliance. Like Arteta will not have sat Saka down at the start of the week and said, oh, if you get down the channel, make sure you nutmeg 𝗕𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 and blast it in the near post. But he will have trusted him that should such a situation develop, he'd have the quality to do something. So, despite the fact they led twice and let those leads slip and it can feel demoralising, why is this actually a really good draw for Arsenal? Now, Liverpool, as they had done against Chelsea, knew the centre of the pitch was going to be a bit of a battlefield. Very physical, very compact. Both teams were going to have to compete in there. So they set up in a way that they thought was going to allow them to do that. But Arsenal had 2 very clever ideas for how to win that battle. And they both sort of come from turning this like 4-4-2 into like a weird diamond. Like Thomas Partey, he would sort of invert into this area, and Kai Havertz, he would sort of drop into it. So all of a sudden, from a situation where Liverpool would have felt quite confident having Gravenberch, McAllister and Jones in the same area as these 2 central players, they now find themselves outnumbered 4v3. And as well as just giving them a man advantage in that area, which is obviously incredibly handy, it then forced Darwin Núñez, Liverpool's central striker and only outball, to basically drop in and help. But even with him doing that, if I'm Mikel Arteta, I look at those 4 Liverpool players and I think Rice, Marino, Partey and Havertz will still physically dominate that area of the pitch, and they did. But the really, really clever thing Arteta did with all this was in the use of Havertz, because the temptation would surely have been to put him up front and have Trossard in this area, but he swapped them over. And you can see, if we show you his heat map, he spent most of his evening over on this right-hand side, practically on top of Bukayo Saka. When he wasn't needed in here, he wasn't pushing forward, he was pushing right. And this meant that not only did Arsenal double up on 𝗕𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏, they roasted him. They flambéed, I think is the word, him. They put him on a skewer and they roasted him slowly in his own juices. And this is all going to start to sound a little bit Tony Pulis, but I would actually take that as a compliment rather than a criticism. If you are going to be having your goalkeeper kick long into the channels, you might as well have someone in the channels who is aerially very good. Like Arsenal were, in effect, sticking it in the mixer. It's just that they had moved the mixer. And by doing that, you're likely to get one of 2 things happening. Like either Kai Havertz will outjump 𝗕𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏, can get a flick and put Bukayo Saka in. Brilliant, we absolutely love that. Or if Saka drops short to receive the ball because they're trying to play out from the back and draws Robertson with him, you've got a player already there, ready to spin into the space. But of course, Liverpool aren't daft. They can't just let Kai Havertz go out there on his own, especially if 𝗕𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏's going to get dragged forward, and that kept pulling McAllister all the way over to sort of sit on him. And what does that then give Arsenal? Another man advantage in the centre. That's exactly where the first goal comes from. Like Liverpool are in their 4-2-4 shape. You can see what we talked about at the start. They do not want to be pressing too aggressively, but they also don't want to be sitting too deep. So they're very, very compact in this area of the pitch. It's all fine margins and great timing and execution, but they are clearly targeting that space in behind 𝗕𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏. Ben White gets on the ball, gets his head up, sees Saka is making the run, and finds him with that pass. And you can even sort of see it in the second goal as well. Like this is the foul that it comes from, and the game's all over here at this point. But if you rewind a couple of seconds, Arsenal only have the ball in that area because Havertz has drifted out, and oh, would you look at that, they've overloaded 𝗕𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏. In Liverpool's and they said frenzy, they're not frenzied to get back, but certainly the disorder that created, they end up giving the foul away and Arsenal score a goal. So what happened then? They were playing so well, they were on top, they had the lead. How did it all slip away? Well, really interesting discussion on the Sky panel. They basically suggested that it was a moral failing on Arsenal's part, that in their hearts they were all secretly cowards, and at 2-1 they simply did not have it in them to go and get that third goal, and they sat off like a bunch of tiny little babies waiting to get picked up by their mothers. Aha, but I have another theory, if we'll all just be normal for a minute. For the last, 20 minutes of this game, this was Arsenal's back four. A team that is fundamentally built on being the best defensive side, the best out-of-possession team in the Premier League, cannot function as normal or with as much ambition or as much just get-up-and-go-ness, that's a term, with these four players at its base. Nothing in the entire rest of this team can be expected to function the way it normally does when you do not have one single player in the correct position in your preferred back four. Gabriel going off injured is, in my opinion, a bigger loss to this fixture than Saliba missing the whole 90. Now, it's not me saying he's a better defender. You can have whichever opinion you want on that, if indeed you want to have one at all. But what he does in regards to that system is more important. I'll just really quickly show you their comparative defensive numbers this season in the Premier League, right? You can see here two very, very different defenders. Gabriel on the left does not really do any defending per se. He manages the rest of the defense. He decides when they sit, when they push forward, when they intervene, when they make a tackle, when they're compact. He basically leads the whole thing from the back. And Saliba, physically excellent and strong as he is, then is the one that gets around making the tackles, winning the headers and winning the ball. Now, you can bring Ben White in and have him do a really solid Saliba impression for the better part of 90 minutes, but you cannot bring Clery off the bench and tell him to cosplay as Gabriel for even a second. And that is precisely where the equalising goal comes from. Like, when the ball is hit into the channel in behind, you can see it's not terrible, this shape. It's not what you would want. You'd like them to all be in a line and slightly better coverage, but it's not awful. You can see the small space they're trying to target, but they're pretty okay. But the difference between Clery and Gabriel is that he reads that pass wrong. He thinks it's for Salah, and thus he must then go over because Salah is ahead of the fullback. But of course, it's not for Salah, is it? And he's just taken himself out of the game. And thus, by the time they get into the box, Arsenal, who should have a nice set back four, are now in this shape. Now, it's not necessarily me digging Clery out and saying he's rubbish or anything like that. He's a very, very solid, competent player. But against a team like Liverpool, they probably couldn't do that to a Gabriel. They can do that to him. But the real killer thing about all of this is when the pass is played, this is where he is in relation to Salah. Like, if it was a straight race to the position Salah's going to score from, he's much closer to the goal. He's got a massive head start, even though they're on the same line. You know how angles work. Obviously, he should be absolutely fine to sort of read that well and cut it out. But again, by the time the pass comes in, that's been completely flipped on its head because he's run out into the fullback area thinking he needs to be there before trying to come back. Which is, of course, very disappointing if you are an Arsenal fan. But I said at the start, I think this result is a really good one for them. And it's not necessarily because of this result, because of how this season is going. If we look at all of Arsenal's results this season, they have gone away to Aston Villa, they've played Brighton with 10 men, they've gone away to Tottenham, they've gone away to City with 10 men. They've had routine home wins where you would expect them to have them, they've played with 10 men against Bournemouth, and now they've played Liverpool, arguably the form team in the Premier League this season. And they've done all of that largely without Martin Odegaard, with players coming in and out with injury all the time, and finishing these matches with back four as messy as that. And despite all of that, despite the adversity and the shooting themselves in the foot and all just the refereeing stuff, which I'm not going to get into this video, they are 5 points off the top of the Premier League, which is obviously not ideal and a lot, but by the same token, it's not very much at all. Like, make absolutely zero mistake, Liverpool will have turned up to this game and seen no Saliba, no Odegaard, no guarantees over the fitness of Bukayo Saka, little bits of improvisation and destabilisation everywhere, and known that were they to win, they would have gone 7 points clear of Arsenal in the table. And even then, as the game wears on, they start to get on top. They become the dominant side. Timber is forced off with an injury. Gabriel is forced off with an injury. And yet, Arsenal, in spite of all of that, did not lose this game. And that could be, honestly, massive. So yes, bottom line, disappointing to lead a game twice and then still not win it. But given what they're having to deal with right now, to again be in one of these situations, defending really deep and defending really well against a team who are really capable of hurting you, and not losing. And to that, you must simply look Mikel Arteta right into his, like, glassy, scary shark eyes and say, juego limpio. So yes, that is why Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2 is in fact a really, really good result for Arsenal. If you'd like to know why it was a good result for Liverpool as well, as I mentioned at the start, we will also do that video. It'll either be in the description and the comments now, or I just won't have finished it yet and it'll be along in a couple of hours. What an exciting twist for you. Now, if you have been sat there this whole video looking at this football shirt thinking, oh wow, oh my God, Adam, I sure would love to own something as stylish and as collectible and as just generally comfortable as that football shirt you're wearing, you can. This is the incredibly limited edition 𝗫𝗫𝗫𝗫 30th anniversary shirt, produced in partnership between us, Legends, and 𝗕𝗫𝗓𝗓, also Legends, and is available from 𝗕𝗓𝗓 right now for, I have forgotten, I think it's a number loosely related to 𝗫𝗫𝗫𝗫. Might be £42. We are making precious, 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 precious few of them, and every time I'm in the office, I steal another one. So if you'd like one and you are size small to, I think, extra, extra large, you can have it. The link for that will be downstairs. This is kind of what it is, I guess, as well. Treat yourself. If you didn't absolutely hate all of this, you can get me across all the socials at Adam Clery, 𝗘𝗫𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓, and I would implore you, nay, beg, to subscribe to us here on FourFourTwo. The more subscribers we get, the more cool stuff we can do, and hopefully, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you will agree. We do cool stuff. The FourFourTwo socials are in the corner of the video. I actually remembered to bring the special 30th anniversary edition of the magazine, which is still in stores now. You can pick that up. It comes in this cool little wrapper, which I'm not going to open because it will destroy the resale value for when I retire. Until next time, though, thank you very much for watching. I have been Adam Clery. This has been FourFourTwo. He's what? They've sacked him? No, just announced it. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm never going home. Really? No, really. Oh, fuck's sake. Right, bye. 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗧𝗜𝗍𝗓𝗓𝗓 gone. Bye.